Welcome back, Middle Earth Strategy Battle Game players and Lotr SBG team fans. Jason here, and we are back with our 8th rendition of the Army Review series. So last time, Dan, Joe, and I talked about Fake Town, and the time before that we talked about Azog's Legion. So I'm going to finish up with the Hobbit book just for now. We will be coming back because there are plenty more armies to cover in the Hobbit book, as I'm sure you all are thinking, what? Finish up? But I'm going to be finishing up for now with the Hobbit book before moving on to another book, probably back to Armies, Lord of the Rings. And I'm going to be discussing Azogs Hunters today. So it's just me. You just have me to listen to. I'm sorry if my boring voice bores you to tears and sleep. I do understand that happens. But hopefully I'm just going to get through this video probably faster than the 45 minutes that I usually do in covering an army solo. Because, like I said, it's just me. And Azog's Hunters is not a very big list, and we've kind of already gone over the two big profiles in the list. So the army can be composed of Azog, Bolg, Yazneg, Narzug, Fimbul the Hunter, Hunter Orc Captains, Hunter Orcs, and Fel Orcs. So the profiles for Azog and Bolg are in the Azog's Legion part of the book. The biggest thing for Azog is he can come with everything that he normally would, but he is not allowed to take the Signal Tower, Heavy Armor, or Stone Flail as part of this Legion, which is kind of big, and that's actually something, I'm not going to lie, I quote-unquote cheated because I didn't realize this, but I've played Azog Hunters a few times against Joe, and I took Azog with Heavy Armor not realizing that I wasn't supposed to. So that is my own fault, and Joe and I talked about it afterwards, and we're both just like, oh, well, oops. So that being said, though, that is kind of a big thing for the list because of the fact that Azog without the heavy armor is only defense 5. So if you take him in the list, he has to be the leader because he is a hero or a legend. But you're talking about having a defense 5 leader. Yeah, he's got quote-unquote 2 fate, being able to use the White Warg's fate interchangeably with his own due to the fact that they have the, Deadly Union special rule. But that is kind of a point, when talking about it. So you're talking about a leader that's going to be pretty expensive. Taking him with the White Warg, because I don't see why you would not take Azog without putting him on the White Warg, for the fact that he does get the 6 points of might, 4 points of will combined, and 2 points of fate. And he does get terror and fell sight then, meaning he won't need line of sight to charge. And having terror makes it harder to charge him. I guess the only reason why is if you're looking to maybe go a little bit cheaper and take Bolg. Him and Azog are both the same amount of points, but Bolg would only get regular Fel Warg, so he's not going to have 6 points of might and 4 points of... He'd just have his typical 3-3-1 stat line, which, there's nothing to laugh at, don't get me wrong. But I do feel like that's actually maybe a better way to go. Maybe not as thematic, since he wasn't really part of the Unexpected Journey movie. He didn't really see him actually come around until the Desolation of Smaug, because his original profile character was supposed to be the Keeper of the Dungeons, and then after he was reintroduced in Desolation of Smaug, that model got renamed for the Keeper of the Dungeons and made an appearance in the extended version of the Battle of Five Armies. Ooh, excuse me, a little tired today. But personally, I think maybe Bolg is a better way to go for this Legion, because of the fact that, as we talk about it, I'll show you, it's a little bit better to play with some of the cheaper heroes because you can really fill out your army then. But Azog and Bolg, we talked about them before. Azog strength 5, defense 5, like I said, without the heavy armor, which is kind of But he is fight 7, which is nothing to laugh at. 3 attack, 3 wound, courage 5, and 3-3-1, but with the White Warg, because again, I don't see why you wouldn't take him with the White Warg. Gives him a combined profile of 6 might, 4 will, 2 fate. And then Bolg is the exact same profile, minus the fact that he only gets the Felwarg, and he is defense 7. They both have ancient enemies against Dwarf and Elf, and Bolg is still burly, and he has the two-handed weapon. Yeah, he's got the two-handed pick. So that's a really good combo, being strength 5 and two-handed and burly. Him and Dane pretty much are two big bad killers when it comes to that. And then, of course, you've got the Bringer of Death special rule, where as Bolg kills stuff, he just gets more and more powerful. I mean, his two kills makes him terror, and that's not hard. You can get 2 kills in your first turn of combat. 5 kills gives him Harboring the Evil, so -1 to your opponent's courage, so it makes it harder to charge him. And then 10 kills, so he gets Mighty Hero. And playing Bolg, I played him, let's say 3 times, maybe 4, and of those 3 or 4 times, I think only one of them. Yeah, I think I played it 4 times now. 4 times, yeah. So the only one that's coming to mind where I didn't get. No, I think I played it 3 times. Well, I'll say 3. Yeah, 3 times playing Azogs Hunters, because I played the Hunters over the Legion list, just because I like the Hunters better. But the 3 times I've played it, I've only not gotten 2 10 kills once. Because let's be honest, this list is cool. I will say that, but killing-wise, it really lacks if you're trying to play it truly thematically with all mounted Hunter Orcs. And the Hunter Orcs are usually not the best in the world. Let's just be honest. But we'll get to those. So, of course, those are your 2 big heroes. We've already covered them at length in our Azogs Legion Army Review series, so I highly recommend you go check that video out. So let's move on to some new heroes. So Yazneg, he's a hero of Fortitude, stupidly cheap, 45 points. He's basically a captain for a lot of factions, but he does have, it's not a bad stat line. Fight 4, which is meh, but these are evil. So fight 4 is no surprise. Strength 4, defense 5, 2 attack, 2 wound, courage 3, 3 might, 1 will, 1 fate. He has heroic strike, which is actually really big for this list. Because outside of Azog and Bolg, you don't have a lot of strikers. So if you were to somehow get Azog and Bolg and Yazneg, and then also Fimbul, the hunter, who we'll talk about in a minute, those are your only strikers. Again, this isn't a very big list, though. There's only 8 profiles in it. It's only 3 pages. But again, he does have Expert Rider, which I think is really cool. So he's rolling Throne Rider tests. That's really good. And then he has a special rule, the Price of Failure. So if your army contains both Azog and Yazneg, too many Y's and Z's. Your army list contains both Azog and Yazneg, and the 2 are in base contact at the beginning of your move phase. Instead of rolling the dice to make a courage test when your force is broken, you can remove Yazneg from play. If you do so, Azog is considered to have automatically passed his courage test, and his stand fast will affect the entire battlefield. Furthermore, if Yazneg is removed from play in this way, then whilst Azog is still alive, all Hunter Orcs, Hunter Orc Captains, Fimbul the Hunter, and Narzug reroll failed courage tests. So that's pretty darn good if you ask me. I'm just going to be honest. Yeah, he's got 3 points of might. He's fight 4, so if you're playing a fight 3 army, you're going to be better off. He'll be good at going in and maybe being a good troop killer. If not, in my opinion, his 3 points of might are really good just to get heroic movements in. Maybe a couple heroic combats here or there, but I don't think you're going to need those so much. Maybe a strike if he's going against like a Minas Tirith army that has a lot of fight 4 heroes with like Ingold and who's the other one? I can't think of it. There's another fight 4 hero, Kyrian. Yeah, Kyrian. Kyrian, Madril, those kind of guys being fight 4. So he'd be able to strike against them. Of course, don't get me wrong, they'll strike back, but he having the Felwarg and the Lance is actually pretty big because he's also getting the +1 to wound when he charges. So I really see him as a great army killer, like troop killer. He can charge in against a speared wall of Minas Tirith, since that's the example I'm using, and he would be wounding those guys if they're still in the spear wall or shield ball, not spear ball, sorry, shield ball. He'd be winning him on 5s with the charge, but if he wins the fight, then they're backing away and going prone, so that makes him defense 6. If you're winning on 5s, so be winning him on 4s with the spear. Lance, gosh, this is not my day. I should not be recording. Anyway, I see him as a really good troop killer, and then just using those 3 points of might, maybe to do some heroic movements. That way, Azog or Bolg, whichever one is not wasting their points of might to do one of those 2 functions. So that's kind of how I see a lot of these small heroes. But that's the Yazneg. Narzug is the next one. He's also a hero of Fortitude. He's a few points more expensive, but there's a reason why. So he's got Fight 4. He's a 4 up shoot value, whereas Yazneg is a 5 up. So that's kind of important. Strength 4, defense 5. 2 attacks to wound. His courage is up to 4. So his shoot value is better by 1, and his courage is better by 1 than Yazneg. He has armor, sword, and orc bow. And you can put him on a fellow warrior. He also has expert riding. His heroics are heroic accuracy. This is more of the true hunter of Azog hunters. So he has lethal aim. Each turn, Narzug may spend a single point of might without reducing his store, even if he has none remaining, to modify either the hit, and in the way, or to wound roll when shooting his orc bow. So he's got an orc bow, so it's only strength 2 with an 18-inch range. But you are evil, so shooting into combat kind of mitigates that a little bit. And if you put him on a fellow warrior, then you're going to get that extra movement. Plus, that means you can do 5-inch move and shoot. And on a 4 up, that makes it a little bit better because we'll go to the army bonus real quick. The army bonus for Azog's Hunter's army list may include 50% bonus rather than every 3. That's pretty good. That's the same thing that the Circle War gets. And all models in Azog's Hunter army have their shoot value increased by 1. So that's really good because Hunter Orcs, who I haven't talked about it yet, but they shoot on the 5 up, so they go back to a 4. So that makes them more like a shooter like men do, because most men shoot on 4 ups. You're talking about Rohan men, Ministerial men, they shoot on 4s. So the only ones that shoot better are like Rangers and Elves, of course. Dwarf Warriors, I believe, are shoot value 4, whereas Dwarf Rangers, so again, Ranger models shoot on 3s. Dwarf Crossbowmen from Iron Hill shoot on 4s. Let's see what else. The Evil Men. You can even look at Umbar, the Arbalesters, and the just Corsair Warriors shoot on 4 too. So getting to that shoot 4 with a 50% chance to hit, plus have a 50% bow limits is much better. So that actually increases Narzug to a 3 up shoot value. So he's shooting like an elf then. I think actually an elf bow though. But the ability to also get a free point of might can really help you out. Where, hey, I moved this turn to do some kiting. I need a 4. Oh, I rolled a 3. Well, darn, I wish I hadn't moved. Oh, hey, free point to hit. So nothing wrong with that. And not 100%. No, he doesn't get it. I was thinking he got Bolg's Morgul Arrow special rule. But the Bolg's Morgul Arrow special rule only affects Hunter Orcs and Hunter Orc captains specifically. So unfortunately, Narzug doesn't get it, but he already has that free point, like I was talking about, to adjust his shooting. So nothing wrong with Narzug there. I actually like Narzug. I have the model, I haven't painted. I would like to maybe convert him onto a fellow warrior, but I'm not very good at converting, and that means I have to buy a whole other. I think I have to buy a whole other kit because I believe GW reboxed Narzug, and I think he comes with Fimbul now. Not 100%. Yeah, he comes with Fimbul the Hunter. So for me to get another Narzug, I actually have to buy another Fimbul the Hunter set, and I already have Fimbul. Fimbul is actually the only, other than I haven't painted Narzug. I lied. I don't know if I said that or not, but I have Fimbul. I don't think I've painted him. But no, I haven't painted Narzug. I have Fimbul, and I have painted him. Good. Anyway, to convert a Fimbul, I would probably have to buy another one of the pack. I don't really want to spend $50 for it, especially for I don't really use those guys. When I play Azog's Hunters, I usually just take my 2 heroes because you got 9 points of might between those 2, and a crap ton of hitting ability between them. But that's Narzug. Moving on, we have Fimbul, who I keep screwing up there. So Fimbul also has a work bow, which is important. Yazneg does not. I missed that. But Fimbul has a work bow, so Fimbul can shoot as well. And he does get his shoot value increased, which is good because he's a 5-up. So he's shooting like hunter work, which is, let's just be honest, I mean, shooting on 5-ups is any kind of movement. I mean, I used to play Warrior Goblins for a little while, and I would spam them. And I would take an entire working with a Warrior Goblin captain with a bow, with an orc bow. So I had 13 shots, and all of them shooting on 5-ups. And if I didn't move and shoot, I might get 4 hits. Might is the key word there, because the majority of the time it was 2 at best. I don't think I got very many kills in 2 or 3 games that I played with that combo. And by the end, I ended up just dropping it all and substituting that warband for, I believe, Dweller in the Dark. And the Dweller in the Dark did a lot more damage in the couple games I played than the 13 Warrior Goblins with bows. But back to Fimbul, yeah, he's a 5-up shoot value, but playing pure, he becomes a 4, which is nothing to laugh at. But the big thing with him is he's also Fight 5. He's the only named hero in this list, outside of the two big ones, obviously, that has Fight 5. So that's really good. So if I have toyed around a few times with not taking Azog, with taking Bolg, because I feel Bolg is a really good model to put in this list, giving everybody Oracle arrows. Because let's be honest, outside of Bolg, you're taking you're taking Hunterworks. So giving the Hunterworks Morgul arrows, I'm sorry, is really good. And the Morgul arrows, if you don't remember, is every turn, if you wound the model, and it doesn't die, then every turn after that, they roll a d6, and on 1, it starts another wound. So you wound the model, doesn't die, he isn't slain, that's what it says. You roll a d6 at the start of each turn. I'm assuming that's before priority is figured out. And if you roll a 1, they take a wound. And it says that takes a wound from a model. So if you get, say you're fighting a multi-wound model, like this is absurd, but we'll say a good and bad troll, and you somehow get 2 Morgul arrow wounds on the defense 8 troll with strength 2 bows. I mean, that's 6s by 6s. I've seen crazier things happen, but it can be done. 6s by 6s. Let's see. Strength 2 on defense 7 is 6s by 4s. So strength 2 on defense 8. No, it's 6s by 5s. I'm sorry. But still, 6s by 5s is not very easily done. I have done it myself. So like I said, I have seen it done. So you do need 6 by 5 just to do a single one on defense 8 model with a strength 2 bow. But if you do those 2 wounds, then the start of the next, every turn after that, he's rolling 2 dice. And the roll of a 1, he takes another wound. So sure, you could get really lucky and roll snake eyes and bye-bye wounded by a troll. And I mean, that's an extreme example. Multi-wound models more likely would be something like probably a king troll is probably more likely to get wounded. A low defense hero, funny, a low defense hero like, say, an Azog with only defense 5. But yeah, it can be pretty good. The Morgul arrow is nothing to lack of. I feel like, especially with this list now being able to take 50% bow limits with the new army rules, that makes it a lot better. But anyway, back to Fimbul the Hunter, because I got way off track there, so I apologize. So he is Fight 5, which is huge. Strength 4, Defense 5, 2 attack 2, and Courage 4. So his Courage value is still better than Yazneg's. His Fight value is better than Yazneg's. He's got the typical complement of the 3-1-1 for a named captain for Middle Earth. Then he has Heroic Strike. So you've got 4 guys in this list that can strike: Yazneg, Fimbul, Azog, and Bolg. He also has Expert Rider, you can put him on Felwork, and then he has Huntmaster for his other special. When mounted, Fimbul ignores the penalties suffered by cavalry models attempting to move in difficult terrain. This even enables him to gain the bonus for charging. So he ignores difficult terrain. Normally, if you go into difficult terrain and you're mounted, you take a quarter movement, and if you charge, you lose your charge bonus. So he can just run through terrain and charge. And to me, I feel like if you want to build a list outside of the concluding, because I'll be honest, when I have played Azog Hunters with Azog and Bolg, I take Azog and Bolg, like I said, but that's like 500 points almost right there. So usually I only play it at 800 or better, and I don't have a very high model count, which is one of the reasons why I've started contemplating dropping Azog again, because of the fact that now that I know after 3 games, oh hey, I'm not supposed to be taking heavy armor. He is defense 5. So Bolg, I feel, would be the better leader there. Yeah, he's only got 1 fade over 2, but I feel the defense 7 is much, much better. And then you can buff your troops, and he gets everybody a normal arrow who has a bow, so nothing to laugh at. I feel like you're dropping Azog and going with the other named heroes. Fimbul is the first must take. I personally take Fimbul first, then Yazneg, then Narzug. Nothing against Narzug. I know the 3-up shoot value with the army bonus is nice, and he gets that free point of height, but having strikers is huge. And then I know I said I'd drop Azog, so I would lose the price of failure special rule. But I mean, you can drop Bolg too. I feel like you have to have one of those two. You have to have Bolg or Azog. Both is better, obviously. 1,000 points, that'd be great. But most games are still somewhere in the 700 to 800 point range, which is personally, I think, the better range to be at anyway. Games just take too long at 1,000. Don't get me wrong, I do enjoy them, but playing for 3 straight hours and that's truly playing. That's not. I'm sure everybody has the same issue that me, Joe, Dan, and all the other Carolina folks have that when we get together and play, is we play for 4 hours, 5 hours together, and we may get a game in, and that's because we stop playing or interrupt ourselves in the middle of the game to chat about something or to bring up something from another army or to ask each other questions about, hey, what should I do in this scenario here? And then we get caught in the rabbit hole loop of going down, 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 down. Kind of like this right here. I'm getting caught in a rabbit hole loop. But yeah, I still think that that's the best range is the 700 to 800. I do like 800. I think it's better than the 750, which was the most prevalent. 7 to 750 was most prevalent in the old edition. I think 750 is kind of the low end now, and then 800 is more in the common range. But I have seen a few 600 point events as well, and I actually enjoy those also because usually the time limit is still 2 hours, but you get done quicker, so you have more time to chat after the game, which is something that's nice when you play them and you meet a new person and you get to chatting about something. It's like, hold on, let's just finish this game. We can tell, you can kind of figure out how much longer a game has to go. It's like, all right, we're 30 minutes into a 2-hour game. We've got about an hour left just looking at what models are left on the board and objectives to get to finish the game. So let's finish this game and then we can chit chat afterwards for 30 to 45 minutes for the remainder of the time and also between rounds. But back to Azogs Hunters. So yeah, I think Fimbul is a really good one to take. Just that special rule where it ignores penalties to move through difficult terrain. It's fight 5 already, and he has heroic strength. And I have seen some people say that they'd rather have Yazneg over Fimbul because of the fact that they has the lance. And I can understand that reasoning. Me personally, I just think having fight 5 to start with is much better. The +1 to wound is invaluable. I can't understate that. It is literally invaluable that +1 wound. Fighting defense troop, 6 troop, Fimbul's going to be 5s no matter what. Fighting a defense 6 troop, if Yazneg gets the charge off, he's wounding on 4s. So that is a big difference. I think it's just personally, I think it's just what you prefer. I prefer to have the fight 5 so I can save my points of might, maybe to roll and get a 4 high on 4 dice. If I win, you win, charge, get the knockdown. Maybe I just need to spend a point of might to get that 5. Whereas with Yazneg, you're spending that point of might every turn to make sure that you're a higher fight value in the fight 4 meta that we currently have. Excuse me, burped a little. Drink too much water earlier. But yeah, I value that fight 5 a little bit higher for that reason. So for the profiles left, we'll cover this guy real quick. Hunter Captain. He's just a typical captain. All these guys are heroes of fortitude, by the way. Fight 4, 4 attack, strength 4. Sorry, fight 4, strength 4, defense 5, to attack 2, courage 3. So he's back down to courage 3. He's basically, Yazneg is the equivalent of a Hunter Orc Captain, except he's got 1 more point of might in the special rule. So the Hunter Orc Captain only has 2 points of might. He can be taken with a Fell Warm, an Orc Bow, or a 2-handed pick. And he is shoot value 5, so with the army bonus, he's back down to shoot value 4. And he gets the Morgul arrows, which is actually not something to laugh at, because if you take Bolg, which is another reason why I think I would take Bolg, and then maybe take Fimbul, and then a Hunter Orc Captain over Yazneg potentially, because you get that the arrow, the Morgul arrow with Bolg, and you've got a couple points of might. So now it makes it a little easier to potentially do wounds to an enemy, being able to might up your wound roll. He does have Heroic March, which, as we talked about in the last review, it turns out so does Bolg and Azog. So, you could take them, which I think is actually probably a smart thing to do if you're not taking both Azog and Bolg, because then you'd have your hero who has March, and you're not spending your leaders or big heroes points of might for March in a scenario where you need to do it, like Reconnoiter or Hold Ground. So his special rule is Many Blades, and this is something that the Hunter Orcs have as well. So this is going to cover both the Hunter Orc and the Hunter Orc Captain. And that's Many Blades. So when they have the infantry keyword, they get +1 to their attacks. So that's pretty big, because if you put a Hunter Orc on foot, that gives him 3 attacks base. So if he gets charged, he still has 3 attacks, and being on foot means that his model base is only 25 millimeter over the 40 millimeter base of the Hunter Orc Captain on Feltwork. So it makes it a little bit more for if you're losing priorities, and you lose priorities, you spend a point of might for movement, then lose a roll off to see whose movement goes first, because I would assume your opponent will call a movement as well. Makes it where if you're getting charged by a couple models, you could still outfight them if they're just, outdice them, I should say, if they're fighting, just regular troops that have 1 attack apiece. So it's kind of debatable. How do you do it? You can maybe use this guy a little bit like Thranduil, where Thranduil, I've heard and seen that he is better on foot than on the Elk. Yeah, being on the Elk, he gets strength 5 on the charge, but on foot, every other model outside of the first one, he's getting an extra attack for, with him being fight 7. That's pretty powerful. So when you talk about the same thing with the Hunter Orc Captain being 3 attack on foot, that's nothing really to laugh at. And that's 3 attack base. So going back to the scenario that I was building there, it's not such a bad thing if you get charged when you're on foot, as opposed to getting charged on a war and you're only got 2 attacks, and then you can get a lot more guys on that 40 millimeter base. So something to think about. And that's something where I've seen, the Hunter Orcs, I've seen them spammed with all foot troops. So John Stokes actually just did that recently at our Great Battle of the Carolinas event that I hosted. And he took a lot of Hunter Orcs on foot. And so while they weren't getting any supports, the fact that every model was on foot means that they have 2 attack base. And that's nothing to laugh at, because you're talking about a cheap model. I mean, it's the equivalent of a Warrior Minister for the shield, going and having the same amount of attacks as you would pay to have a typical sword and shield wall, or sword and spear wall, with that same army of Minister. Minister, if you pay, was it like 8 points, I think, if you give a man a shield, and then, add another point if you give him a spear and a shield. So you're talking about almost 20 points for a spear and shield combo for 2 attacks. And then if you want a banner in there for a reroll, okay, Hunter Orc only costs the first guy, and he's got the same amount of attacks. And, they're the same fight value at 3, so, let's go ahead and roll, and maybe I'll run the roll off. So that's nothing to laugh at. I think Hunter Orc spam on foot is a really good combo, especially if you can ally in Azog's Legion. And so they are green allies with Azog's Legion. Let's see. Azog's Hunters, they are green allies with Azog's Legion, and then Dark Powers of Dol-Guldur, which, it pretty much makes sense. So you could, take Bolg from the Hunter list, and then take Azog from the Legion list, and Azog could be leading a bunch of Gundabad orcs with spears, so then you could have 3 attacks, because you'd be supporting the Hunter Orcs. The Hunter Orcs are weak, they're defense 4, but they're strength 4 too, which is, again, going up against a defense 6, shield wall, which is pretty standard. You're wounding on sixes. I'm sorry, you're wounding on fives. Let's talk about Iron Hills, who's one of their enemies, of course. You're going up against the Iron Hills, shield wall, which is defense 8. Well, they're wounding on straight sixes, as opposed to 6s by 4s, which is what a strength 3 army would need against it. So nothing to really laugh at there. And oh yeah, by the way, they got 2 attacks because of many blades. And this is something that's interesting because not a lot of orc armies can take this. The hunter orcs, they can take a warhorn, so you can buff your courage value. Now, their typical courage value of 2 for an orc, but getting to courage 3 is big because then you're buffing your heroes as well. You're making Azog courage 5. You're making Bolg, courage 6. You're making Bolg courage 6. That's nothing to really laugh at. They could also make a banner, which that's a good thing too. You kind of want to take one so you get that extra. You can get that reroll for someone like a hunter orc captain on foot being supported nearby with a banner. He's got 4 attacks, potentially, because you get the reroll. That's how I consider it, 4 attacks. They also been taken on Felwarg. You give them the orc bow. Like I said, 50% of them can be, and then you can give them a 2-handed pick. So picks, I believe, do piercing strike, so you can get up to strength 5. And they are weak on defense. They're defense 4. They only have armor, and then the 2 swords for their war gear. So nothing to laugh at there. And then finally, the last model on this list is the Felwarg. And the Felwarg is fight 3, 10-inch movement, strength 4, defense 4, 1 attack, 1 wound, courage 2. He's got claws and teeth and fell sight. So that's key because since the Felwargs have fell sight, which means you don't need line of sight to charge, when you mount a hunter orc on a Felwarg, they therefore get fell sight as well. So that's really good because that gives Bolg the ability to charge it out, needing to see or being seen, and Azog the same thing. So you could therefore hide your leader around like a tree or around a building, around a fence, around whatever terrain you've got that could be a good blocker, and then use his 10-inch movement to charge the next turn without needing to be seen. I feel like that's a really good special that sometimes gets overlooked. And personally, when I built the list, I actually usually take a few of these Felwargs just on their own because of the fact that they're 10-inch movement. So for objective scenario games, I can take my mounted hunter orcs of Felwargs, take my mounted heroes, and go attack my opponent's lines and tie up their troops and use the Felwargs to go run 10 inches and grab objectives where need be. So very good for something like capture and control. But that is all the profiles, guys. I will say I do actually enjoy playing this list, and I have a bunch of old Warg Rider models because when I was getting back into the game in 2014, I just got a whole bunch of Warg Riders, and I always thought Warg Riders are cool. One of my favorite scenes from Two Towers is the skirmish between Théoden and his guard and Sharku's riders on the open fields of Rohan when they're making their way into Helm's Deep. That is one of my favorite scenes, and I mean that's what introduced us to Warg Riders. So I've always had a like and love for that, and that's one of the reasons why I play Azog's Hunters. Is I've got a few of the Hunter Orcs on Felwarg models, but they're kind of expensive. And like I said, I have all these old old Warg Rider models, so I use them for proxies, and they're a perfect proxy to fill in. I mean, I allow it as a TO, so therefore most people don't really mind when I play it. Joe and Dan are the ones I played against with that list. Either one of them mind. The models are pretty much the same size, same base, perfect substitute. But yeah, they're really fun to play, and I will say the shooting, I've tried doing it a few times. The only army I played against where my shooting was somewhat good was against Joe's Ruffian force, but he had so many models arrayed against me that, yeah, I killed 4 or 5 guys in one turn of shooting, which is cool, but he had 20-something bows, because I think he had like an 80 model list at whatever we were playing at, because Ruffians are cheap. And if I did 4 or 5, I think he caused like 9 or 10 wounds, and one of them being on the White Warg, and one of them being the one that took Bolg off his Felwarg, and that was the one game where I didn't get to the 10 kills needed with Bolg to get that free point of bite with Mighty Hero. But they are a fun list. And wise, allies. You can combine the 2 allies, like I said, Azog's Legion, Dark Powers of Door, and so you can get a little bit of magic casting in there potentially. And then also the fact that you could do it the most competitive way would probably be to have the Hunter Orcs on foot and have them spear supported by a Gundabad Orc with a shield. I'm sorry, not a shield, a spear. So, yeah, that would probably be the best way because then you're getting a lot of attacks with a lot of cheap troops. Being strength 4, yeah, the weaknesses again, they're only fight 3, but there's still a lot of fight 3 armies out there, even though the meta is fight 4 or better. But yeah, so that's everything. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Just another solo random video, this time by me. Next video will be better. I actually have the next army already picked out, and I may have the next 2 videos figured out already, but if you guys are interested in hearing about another army, please let me know. We're doing a little bit better with getting videos out finally. I think the Great Battle of Carolinas a couple weeks ago helped inspire us to get back into making videos and getting content out for all you guys who have subscribed and watched it. So, as always, really appreciate the subscribes, likes, please comment, all that kind of stuff. It really helps us out. It gives us a little bit of a insight into what you guys want to see and hear from us. So we do have some more battle reports planned, and then, like I said, we've got more of these army reviews going. My goal is to get through every single army in all the books, all the supplements, and then to start dabbling into things like the Legendary Legions, which maybe you'll see soon. You never know. Stay tuned. But again, guys, thank you all for supporting us. And as always, please support the hobby and enjoy the hobby as much as you can. Take care.